The music stopped mid-note. Hundreds of guests turned at once, their eyes shifting from the glowing chandelier to the grand entrance. 3 little girls stood there, hand in hand, their dresses simple, their shoes dusty, their faces filled with something that didn't belong at a billionaire wedding: quiet determination. And then one of them spoke. "Excuse me, we think the groom is our father." In that moment, a perfect celebration cracked open, and a truth buried for years began to rise. Before we continue, take a second to support stories that remind us what truly matters. Subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments with Corner of Kind Choices. Your support helps spread kindness one story at a time. The wedding of Daniel Reeves was the event of the year. A self-made billionaire in his early 40s, Daniel had built his tech empire from nothing. His story had been featured in magazines, podcasts, and business schools across America. And tonight, he was marrying Victoria Hale, a successful entrepreneur in her own right. Together, they were the picture of power, success, and perfection. The venue was breathtaking: a coastal estate in California, overlooking the ocean. White roses lined the aisle, a string quartet played softly, and guests dressed in designer outfits whispered about stock markets and luxury vacations. Everything was flawless. Until it wasn't. The triplets stood out not just because they didn't belong, but because they seemed so sure of why they were there. They looked about 8 years old, identical in face but different in expression. One was calm, one nervous, and one quietly brave. Security started moving toward them, but Daniel raised his hand. "Wait," he said, his voice firm but curious. He stepped forward, adjusting his cufflinks, his expression a mix of confusion and concern. "What did you say?" he asked gently. The boldest of the 3 stepped forward. "We said, we think you're our dad." A murmur swept through the crowd. Cameras turned. Phones lifted. Victoria's smile faded. Daniel blinked, clearly caught off guard. "That's not possible," he said slowly. "I think there's been a mistake." The second girl, the nervous one, held out a worn envelope. "Our mom told us to give you this, if we ever found you." Daniel hesitated, then took the envelope. His fingers trembled slightly as he opened it. Inside was a letter, old and creased, and a DNA test report. The world around him seemed to disappear as he read. 8 years earlier, before his company had taken off, Daniel had lived a very different life. He was struggling, working long hours, barely making ends meet. During that time, he had a brief relationship with a woman named Elena, kind, thoughtful, and strong. But when a major opportunity came up in another city, Daniel left, promising to stay in touch. He didn't. Life moved fast. Success came quickly. And somewhere along the way, Elena became a distant memory. Until now. The letter was simple. "Daniel. If you're reading this, it means our daughters found you. I didn't want to interrupt your life or your success. I raised them with love, and they are the best part of my world. But they deserve to know where they come from. And you deserve the chance to know them, if you choose kindness. Elena." Daniel's eyes moved to the DNA report. The results were clear. 99.9% match. His hands dropped to his sides. The noise of the crowd returned like a wave crashing in his ears. "They're mine," he whispered. Victoria stepped closer, her voice tight. "Daniel, what is going on?" He looked at her, then at the girls, then back at the letter. "I didn't know," he said. "I swear, I didn't know." The girls stood silently, watching him not with anger, but with hope. That's what made it harder. Security lingered nearby, unsure what to do. Guests whispered louder now. Some looked uncomfortable, others curious, a few even judgmental. But the girls didn't care about any of that. The calm one spoke this time. Our mom got sick, she said softly. She told us about you, and gave us your name. We found you online. The brave one added, she said you were a good man. Those words hit Daniel harder than anything else. A good man. He looked down at them, 3 small lives that had existed without him. 3 daughters who had grown up without his support, his presence, his love. And yet, they stood here believing in him. Victoria crossed her arms. Daniel, we need to handle this privately. This is not the time or place. She wasn't wrong. The wedding, the guests, the media, it was all unraveling. But something deeper was happening. Daniel knelt down in front of the girls, bringing himself to their level. Where is your mom now? He asked gently. The nervous one's eyes filled with tears. She passed away, 2 weeks ago. Silence fell again, heavier this time. Daniel felt something inside him break. All the success, all the wealth, all the recognition, it suddenly felt small compared to what he had lost without even knowing it. I'm so sorry, he said, his voice cracking. The brave one stepped closer. We didn't come to ruin your wedding, she said. We just didn't know where else to go. That was the moment everything changed. Not because of the DNA. Not because of the past. But because of what Daniel chose next. He stood up slowly, took a deep breath, and turned to the crowd. I know this isn't what anyone expected today, he said. But these girls, they're my daughters. A ripple of shock moved through the guests again, but Daniel didn't stop. I can't undo the past. I can't be there for the years I missed. But I can choose what I do now. He looked at Victoria, his expression honest and vulnerable. I understand if this changes things, he said. But I can't ignore them. I won't. Victoria was silent for a long moment. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then she stepped forward. She looked at the girls, really looked at them not as a problem, not as an interruption, but as 3 children who had lost their mother and found themselves standing in a place they didn't belong. Her expression softened. What are your names? She asked. The girls exchanged glances. Lily, said the calm one. Emma, said the nervous one. And Grace, said the brave one. Victoria nodded slowly. Well, she said, taking a breath, this isn't how I imagined my wedding day, but maybe it's how it's meant to be. She turned to Daniel. If we're going to build a life together, she said, it should be one built on truth and kindness. Then she did something no one expected. She knelt down and opened her arms. The girls hesitated for just a second, then stepped into her embrace. And just like that, the tension in the air began to shift. Guests lowered their phones. Some wiped away tears. The music didn't resume right away. It didn't need to. Because something far more meaningful had taken its place. The ceremony continued, but it was different now. Less about perfection, more about presence. Less about appearances, more about authenticity. Daniel spoke his vows with a new kind of depth. Not just as a partner, but as a father. Victoria's voice carried warmth and strength, not just as a bride, but as someone who had chosen compassion in a moment where she could have chosen pride. And the triplets? They sat in the front row, holding hands, no longer outsiders but part of something real. In the weeks that followed, Daniel's life changed completely. He rearranged his priorities. Board meetings were rescheduled. Investments paused. Time, something he once treated like currency, became something he gave freely to his daughters. He learned their favorite foods, their bedtime stories, their fears and dreams. He made mistakes. He showed up anyway. And every day, he chose kindness, not because it was easy, but because it was right. Victoria stood by him, not out of obligation, but out of love. She helped create a home where the girls felt safe, valued, and seen. A home where kindness wasn't just spoken, it was lived. The story made headlines, of course. People debated, judged, and speculated. But what they didn't see, the quiet dinners, the laughter, the healing, was where the real story lived. Because kindness isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's a decision made in a moment of chaos. A choice to open your heart when it would be easier to close it. A willingness to step into someone else's pain and say, "You're not alone anymore." That wedding day didn't go as planned. It became something better. A reminder that life doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for compassion. And that even in the most unexpected moments, kindness has the power to rewrite everything. So wherever you are, and whatever you're facing, remember this. You don't need a grand stage or a perfect moment to make a difference. Sometimes, all it takes, is choosing kindness when it matters most.